So good evening, everyone. It's my great honor to present our very first Parent and Community Wellbeing Seminar. My name is Andrea Gemesi. I'm the head of PTA, and I'm a mother of 4 children. All of them are teenagers, so no wonder that I'm sitting here in the first row, because I want to hear more about the topic of preventing teen drug and smoking and alcohol abuse, because I think that's kind of becoming part of our life. Even if we have smaller children, it's very important that we are informed, we know what to pay attention to, and we also have to find out how we can support our children the best way. Recently in the media, there have been a lot of conversation going on about the topic. It's a hot topic, obviously, because we have to take care of our children. And maybe some of you have seen shows, TV shows like Adolescence last year. I think it was on last year. And a couple of years ago, Euphoria. There was another American show. I think it was both. I mean, both of them were really, really interesting to watch, but also very painful. So tonight we gathered here to learn about the topic, and I hope that we will have the opportunity at the end of the lecture to ask questions and also have some kind of conversation. And it's a great honor for me to introduce our speaker tonight. And I'm sorry, but I have to look up the credentials as well and the name as well. Sorry about it. So Phaedon Kaloterakis, Mr. Yes. I hope I did a good job. And just mentioning a few positions that he's holding. So he's the Managing Director of the World Federation of Therapeutic Communities, and also the President of the European Federation of Therapeutic Communities, former President of SEIRIOS, and Assistant Director of KETHEA, or KETHEA in Greece, consultant for UNODC and visiting lecturer at Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, Democritus University of Thrace, UC San Diego, the National School of Judges, and the National Police Re-Education School in Greece. So please welcome Mr. Kaloterakis, and please be here with open minds and open hearts to hear more about the topic. And I would like to welcome you here, and let's give a round of hands.
Thank you, Andrea. 2 things. One, you pronounce my last name really beautifully. It's not easy, but if you really, etymologically, if you see, Kaloterakis means good little monster. Okay? So you should know this. And the other thing is that I want to say something in French to you. Bon courage. With 4 teenagers, bon courage. All the courage you need. I would like to thank the Academy, the American Academy, for this. I'm a frequent visitor, and it's a joy. Every single time it's a joy. So I want to thank you, Aleko. I want to thank the board, the colleagues, the teachers, okay, everybody, and you for being here tonight. I mean, it's a Wednesday night. You could have done other things probably, but you're here, so I appreciate this. It's an honor for me. And I want to start with an apology. I want to apologize for my very thick Greek accent, first of all. So if you don't understand something, which might be the case, please stop me. Let's be informal. Don't hesitate, just stop me. Ask me, and I will try to say it again, or someone with a better pronunciation can repeat it. And the other thing is that I have a lot of material. I'm involved in the addiction field since 1981, so it's a long career in many ways. And now the last years, I used to work in Greece for more than 35 years, and the last years now I work for a global organization, so I travel all over the world. Drugs, travel, make me travel, literally, in my case. There is nothing symbolic about it. So there is a lot of experience there. So please guide me with your questions at the end. But we can also argue, we can disagree. Nobody has the absolute truth. Certainly, I don't. So I also have very nice jokes about addiction. Recently, 2 years ago, I wrote a book, and the publisher insists that I write these jokes. I put them together. Jokes about addiction, because we need humor. When we have adverse situations, we need humor, right? Someday, but I'm going to run out of time if I tell you the jokes. If we have time at the end, and you're still around, I can share a few jokes with you. But basically, my presentation has 3 parts. The first part is we'll talk about addiction, about the nature of addiction. Because in order to see how we can prevent things, we have to know what addiction is as a phenomenon. The second part, we'll talk about substances, okay? What we call drugs. And the third part is I will try to give you some prevention tips for parents, for teachers, for everybody. Is that clear? So far, so good? Okay, now, to take off my glasses so I can see. There are many myths about addiction. And certainly, the media sometimes does not help. For example, many parents are afraid that someone might drop something at a bar, at a cafe, at a pub, you know, in a glass, to spike a drink, right? You're drinking oranges, and then all of a sudden, you're drinking oranges with amphetamines. So we're afraid of this. This doesn't happen. This never happens. It happens only with what we call a rape drug. Usually that's a rohypnol. It's a benzodiazepine, or with ketamine, when someone wants to take advantage of someone, to rape, to abuse someone sexually. That's the only time it happens, because addiction is not something that you catch. It's not an illness in this sense of the word. Okay? In some cases, some establishments do offer this, but it's like an offering. I was in Amsterdam, going out with colleagues to a jazz club, and they said, Phaedon, you know, keep your glass with you wherever you go in the club. I said, why? Because they spike your drinks. But this was to advertise the club. So people knew. It doesn't happen by accident. You don't get addicted by accident. If they spike your drink or your son's or your daughter's drink, the most probable thing is that he or she will, she will vomit. That's the reaction, a physical reaction. So he won't become or she won't become a drug addict or someone addicted. Okay? So there is one myth. The other myth has to do, for example, has to do with the withdrawal syndrome. We think it's something terrible, people might die. Nobody dies from a withdrawal symptom, especially from heroin. It's like a flu, a heavy case of flu. It takes 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. There is pain involved, okay, especially here. There are cramps, there are cold showers, you know, you're sweating, you feel very weak. But it goes away after 4, 5, 6, 7 days, depending how much heroin you've been using, how old you are, etc., etc. How is your physical condition? So nobody dies. But when we come to alcohol, you might die. You see how wrong we have things in our mind? When we have someone who is addicted to alcohol, we need to bring him to the hospital. The protocol in Greece and most European Union countries is 8 days. So he has to be under supervision because he might die from a heart attack when he's addicted to alcohol, the alcohol that we must drink. So hopefully tonight I'm going to demythologize some of the things that we know about addiction. Now, addiction is not an illness with the classical sense of the word, but it is a behavior. It is actually, if I want to be correct, to be more precise, it is a behavioral disorder. And also, it's very complicated. It's a complicated phenomenon. It's not black and white. It has many dimensions. It is a multidimensional phenomenon. But for the sake of our argument or of our discussion tonight, I'm going to talk about 3 dimensions very briefly. The first one is a biological dimension. I think one of the greatest discoveries of the last 30, 40 years after we went to the moon, the greatest discovery, in my opinion, is the ability to read the brain, to scan the brain. Now we can scan the brain and we know many things about how our body functions, okay? So the scanning of the brain shows us that there are neurons, there are receptors, there are many connections and circuits, there is dopamine, serotonin, you've heard all about this. So this has to do with addiction. There is a biological element to this. There is a biological dimension. But it's not a medical. It is called also a brain disease, but it's not solely a brain disease. Because there is a strong psychological dimension. People who are traumatized get addicted. Why? Because it's a kind of self-therapy. It's a way out. When you're addicted, and let me be clear with this, because there are behavioral addictions and they're very similar to using or abusing substances. For example, gambling, addiction to gambling, addiction to screens, to the internet. It's very similar. Even how the brain functions is very similar with addiction to opioids, for example, or cannabis. Okay? So it's a way out. It's a kind of self-therapy. Because when you're addicted, you don't feel the pain, the emotional pain, the psychological pain. So you feel okay. It makes it very attractive. So that's one way why people get addicted. A few years ago, I had a very close relative of mine. Alekos knows the situation. He came to my office. He was 80 years old. He was crying. He said, "Only when I play the slot machines, I'm happy." He had a lot of guilt about things that he had done. There was a lot of pain. So he was playing the slot machines, and he was addicted. He would lose money left and right. And he felt okay because of that behavior, of addiction. It works like an anesthetic. It anesthetizes you, but it works like an anesthetic not only concerning pain, but you don't feel anything else. You become like a zombie. For example, somebody who started doing different substances, drugs, when he was 15. He comes to you for treatment and he's 40, he's in his 40s, early 40s. His emotional development has stopped at 15. He's a very smart person, obviously, very sensitive, etc., able. But his emotional development stopped at 15 because that's when he started this behavior. He entered the world of addiction. Okay? So his emotional development stopped right there. And you have to work. That's why treatment programs like therapeutic communities, the ones that I work for, take so long. It's not 1 month, 2 months, 28 days, or 3 months. It might take 1 year, it might take 2 years, because you have to bring your life upside down. You have to learn to live in a different way. And when you fall in love with life, you don't need any crutches. And these crutches might be heroin, might be cocaine, might be gambling, might be the internet, or an addictive relationship. Okay? So there is also a third dimension, the social dimension. People were using substances from antiquity. Which is the most famous case in classical Greek history of using substances? It's not a rhetorical question. Just let me see. Pythia. Pythia. Do you know Pythia in Delphi? The there were priestesses dedicated to god Apollon. They would chew leaves. It was not laurel, not Daphne. Daphne is good for stifado. The ones who cook know. I don't cook. I cannot even boil water. But that's what they tell me, the ones who know, all right? There was another plant that would make you hallucinate, and they would speak nonsense. And the priests who were politically minded people, especially supporting Athens, Athens was the superpower, they would give the explanation, the interpretation of the what's the term? Chrismos? Of the oral, thank you. Of the oracle. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. So the Assyrians discovered beer. Ooh, for the Assyrians. I like beer. Okay. The Aztecs in Mexico, do you know how they would get a high? Huh? Not Coke, and later on cocaine, was with the Incas in the Andes. but the Mexican, the Aztecs, with chocolate. 100% pure chocolate. Don't try it at home. but they would use it in a liquid form. But all these were part of a ceremony, of a ritual. It will take 2-3 days. You know, you remember the Bacchic celebrations of God Dionysus. They would get drunk with alcohol, 2-3 days out in the streets, orgies, blah, blah, everything goes. But then they would go back to their real lives and they would be okay. When does this all change? At what point in history, the history of the human race, this changes dramatically? I'm trying to prove to you the social dimension, which is a very strong dimension. It has to do with the way we live, and especially how the younger generation perceives us, the older generation. Any idea? When do we have massive consumption of addictive substances in the history of the human race, of humankind? When? During the 60s, yeah? The Vietnam War, the hippies, yeah? Anybody else?
After World War II.
After World War II. Okay, 2 guesses. It's like a game, okay. Anybody else? 1800s. Yeah? Yes. The 2 ladies win. All right. Yes. Steam changes everything. The discovery of steam as a source of energy, as a power that we can use, changes dramatically, radically the way we live as humans. Because we have trains, so we have massive transport from one place, you know, to another, not just horses and carriages or walking on foot, but we move people from one place to another. But mostly we have factories. And what happens with factories? Think about Charles Dickens. You know Charles Dickens, right? Oliver Twist, David Copperfield, Chris Pastore. Bring to your mind the London of the late 1800s. Okay? Filthy, stench everywhere, cholera, different epidemics, thousands of young kids roaming the streets without control, without families, crime, right? Why? Because people left their natural environment, they left their village to come to the big city because that's where work were, that's where they could find jobs, because that's where the factories were. But that had, as a result, the alienation. People were alienated from the natural environment, but also from each other, but at the end from themselves. What did they do? In Northern Europe and Central Europe, North America, they started drinking alcohol. In China, they started using opium. For the very first time in the history of human race, because of steam, blame steam for everything, we have thousands, millions of people using substances to deal with this new reality. So there is a strong social element. You see, it's not only biological, it's not only psychological, it's not only social. It's all 3 of them. There are other dimensions. There is a spiritual dimension, in my opinion. There is a legal dimension, certainly an economical dimension, a financial dimension, but we don't have the time to go into details. But that's why we mostly consider addiction, drug addiction more specifically, a bio-psycho-social phenomenon because of the 3 dimensions. Any questions so far?
In the case of countries where the industrial changes, did it happen so quickly or drastically? And do you think that the same phenomenon of addiction happened?
Yes, but later on, yes, historically, later on. Okay, but it is the Industrial Revolution that changed the scene, definitely. So it's a complicated phenomenon. That's what I'm trying to say, because when we want to think preventively, and this is the talk we're going to have, we're thinking of our children, our kids. We're educators, we're pedagogues, we're teachers, right? But we're also parents. I have 4 children, 3 grandchildren, okay? So we're all thinking along those lines, right? We need to know the nature of the beast. We need to know what addiction is. Addiction actually is slavery. Because when you're addicted, you don't have control of what you do. You say, oh, I want to quit. And you're honest. But this honesty lasts 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour. Okay? So it's not easy. It consumes you. Okay? So now let's talk a little bit about the substances, and mainly about the substances that it is possible are used by our teens. Okay? So I'm not going to talk about heroin. Not that there is no heroin addiction. There is addiction to heroin in Cyprus as well. I have news for you. No, you know this, but most kids do not use this. The UNODC, you mentioned this, I'm a consultant of the UNODC. UNODC is the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Okay? And every year they publish a report. In their 2025 annual report, but they're speaking now, the data comes from 2023. They have found out that 316 million people are using substances. And these substances do not include the legal substances like cigarettes or vaping and alcohol. 316 million people all over the world are using substances. 244 of these people use cannabis. Think about it, okay? Now, we have cigarette smoking and vaping. Now, to smoke a cigarette is really a big sin. You're an outcast, especially when you go to the airports. It's funny in a way. You see these people suffering in this glass box, you know. Boy, they're punished. And everybody, oh, yeah. Okay, this has changed. It was not the case. I remember flights in a plane where the smokers would sit at the back of the plane. Now, smoking on a plane, I mean, come on, really? This has changed, but vaping is not as innocent. There is not enough research. Now it's coming out to show the dangers of vaping. So let's keep this in mind. And it's also very addictive, mainly because of the nicotine. But also alcohol. Alcohol is one of the most, attractive substances. Now, we cannot demonize substances. It is stupid. I'm using the word stupid emphatically because substances are a thing, are something neutral. You cannot say to something neutral, oh, you are bad or you are good. The way we use it can be described as healthy or non-healthy. Okay? So cannabis is not bad. Alcohol is not bad. It is not good either. It's a substance. So we should not demonize substances. But it is true, though, that alcohol, I drink in moderation, but I do drink, and I like it actually, okay, can be very problematic. Especially with the young people, when you go to Lycia, to 9th and 10th and 11th and 12th graders, right? Grades, yeah, graders. Okay, thank you. They somehow associate fun with going out in the evening. And 90%, even more, this fun has to do with alcohol consumption. So it's not that innocent. Alcohol is available. The people can find it at Periptera, but they can find it in our homes. It's everywhere. It's also culturally accepted. You know, we see dads giving to their little kids, drink. Now, it's Andras, to be a man, right? Drink. Oh, I mean, sorry, very stupid also, but okay. It happens, okay? So it's available, it's culturally accepted, and it's advertised everywhere. It's connected with having fun, which makes it extremely attractive. I come back from work, I had really a big fight with my boss, and I'm very upset. And I want to relax. Multiple choices. One is to talk to my wife. She's my best friend. She's my spouse, my partner. She really is, Okay, Vicky, let me tell you what happened. And when I do this, I say, you know what your son did today? That's her reaction. No, that's don't. No, I'm safe with Alekos, he won't tell. We're like brothers, so it's okay, I trust him. Because then I will be in trouble that I said this thing. But yeah, she also has her own problems. So we're not 100% sure that this will relax me. I'm a musician. I play the piano, I play music, I listen to music. Okay, sometimes it will relax me, sometimes it won't help at all. I love sports. I really love sports. And I love football, of course. And I'm an Iraklis fan. Okay. This is extremely painful, so there is no... it's not a good way to relax, definitely. This is 0%. But if I open a whiskey bottle that I have, the cupboard, you know, take it out in a mini bar, you know, and drink, it is guaranteed that I will relax. The result is guaranteed. And this makes it extremely attractive. And how many times haven't we seen this image in movies? Hundreds of times. The hero is out there, he killed 20, 30 people, and he comes home to relax, you know. First thing he does, drink alcohol, right? So it's here, it's in our hard drive. Extremely attractive. It's like a reflection. Okay? So here you go. Alcohol, it's another thing, and we should be aware of this. Again, we don't demonize this, right? For example, to give you an example, what is the strongest, talking about demonization, what is the strongest painkiller as a medication? Not cortisone. Morphine. It's morphine. Or fentanyl now. We'll talk a little bit about fentanyl. Morphine. Where does morphine come from? Do you know? From opium. Where does heroin come from? From opium. Yeah. And in fact, do you know who developed heroin? Which is the most famous pharmaceutical company of old? They would produce the best drug ever, aspirin. Bayer. Bayer in 1898, you know, produced heroin, and there is a poster, and that's why probably it's called heroin, because it's a heroic substance, heroic medication. It's good for all kinds of pain, especially for women's period. Okay? That's how they would advertise it, Bayer, right? So opium helps thousands of humans, thousands of people who are in pain, especially last stages of cancer, etc., but also kills people with heroin, right? So there's nothing wrong with opium or heroin, or, you know, it's what we do with this that can be classified as healthy or non-healthy, all right? So the next substance that I would like to talk to you about is cannabis. Okay, cannabis, you can make things, you can make even pants, you can make bags, you can, the strongest rope for ships come from cannabis. Also for plumbers, chimuja, if you know, the chimuja is the thing that you know, you go to the toilet, okay, I'm not gonna get into details, but okay, you can use your imagination. It's made from cannabis. But cannabis has a certain ingredient called THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, Greek word, tetrahydrocannabinol. It's like the nicotine in the regular cigarettes, okay? And this creates some problems. Okay, first of all, THC can trigger mental illness. Okay, and I have seen it happen. It happened to one of my very best friends and colleagues, a musician. We would be playing music together for years. And now, 30 years now, he's still in a psychiatric hospital with medication because he developed schizophrenia because of using cannabis, smoking cannabis, that was suggested by an alternative doctor in Thessaloniki so that you could relax. I'm serious, this is not, I'm not making these things up, you know. Because you might have even hereditary, a mental illness that you don't know about. You can die in your late 80s, and this probably never comes to the surface, but THC triggers it. The first, the second, the third time you use it. So it's like Russian roulette, okay? You don't know. Also, THC destroys brain cells, especially brain cells that they have to do with memory, memory, what else? No, I didn't make this up, it just happened. Oh, that was the best. Because it just came in, oh boy. And I forgot. I never smoked, okay? I have to make this clear. With memory, I really, this is amazing. I'm doing this for over 40 years, and this is bad. I don't need THC in order to forget. So it destroys brain cells, and these brain cells do not come back again. Okay? Also, the feeling of pain. You don't feel the pain that fast. And I'm looking for something else, which is memory. Oh, and cleverness. It keeps the IQ down. Okay? The use of cannabis. Let me see what else I have here. So, triggering psychosis and mental illness. You have to understand that cannabis today is genetically modified. It's not the hashish of old, of Rebetes, to Vanvakari and all those people, okay, that was all natural. It's not natural anymore, okay? The production, there's big money, especially in the United States, with cannabis. And also, this is very interesting for people who are teachers here. There is what I call a pedagogical dimension to cannabis use. First of all, the brain develops until we're 24, 25. So if I smoke, I don't, but if I smoke over the weekend, a joint, nothing will happen to me, nothing. Because I'm 67, I'm safe. But it's not the same with someone who is 15. Do you understand? You see the difference? So let's be honest about it. That's how it is. But also, there is a pedagogical dimension. Most people who end up doing hardcore drugs, which is a euphemism, they're not hard or soft, you know, they're substances, and they vary what damage they can do, right? But most people who ended up doing heroin or cocaine, they started with cannabis. Now, it's wrong, and it's not scientific to say that everybody who does cannabis will end up doing heroin. This is nonsense, okay? There are people who do cannabis, it's a phase in their lives, they're younger probably, and then they stop, okay? But it's not a coincidence that more than 90% of people who ended up with heroin and cocaine, statistically, started with cannabis. Because what cannabis does, it opens a door. You alter your consciousnness by using a substance, okay? This doesn't happen with alcohol. Because people say it's very hypocritical why alcohol is free and legal and cannabis is not, because cannabis is not as dangerous. That's not the case. When you want a joint from Morocco, which is probably the best, or one of the best, you don't want it for the taste. You just want to get high. Cannabis always gets you high. With alcohol, you can have one glass, 2 glasses, and you don't have that effect. Do you understand the difference? Okay. So, there is now a new thing in Greece, I don't know here, the cannabinoids. Do you have them here? You don't know, but you might. They sell them in Greece at mini markets, everywhere. But everywhere. I can show you pictures. They call them spice or potpourri. Does it ring a bell now? They're little envelopes, and they're like bath salts, but they're not for taking a bath. You put them in the cigarette, and they give you high. And they are legally sold. Okay? These are probably more dangerous than actual cannabis because we don't know what chemicals are there. There is no control. So have this in mind. Another thing that is quite common is amphetamines. Amphetamines are extremely, or methamphetamines, I'm not going to go into details, but they're very popular. I used to go, before what is happening in Iran, very often to Tehran to do trainings there. And I found out that they called me to do trainings about amphetamines, but they produce opium. But they didn't want that. The problem the people had there is amphetamines. In Japan, for example, you won't find people doing heroin. Very few people do heroin. Most of them do amphetamines. Amphetamines are ecstasy, these pills, okay? So you have an idea. And the first time I went to Japan, I was at a very official dinner, and next to me was the chief of police of Osaka. And I asked him, I said, why you don't have heroin here, and you have amphetamines? And now, what this guy said, it's not a conspiracy theory. This was the chief of police of Osaka. He said, you know what? Right after the war, our country was destroyed. You know, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, you know, it was destroyed. And we had to rebuild our country. So the state, the government, came in a secret agreement with Yakuza. You know what Yakuza is? The Japanese mafia, let's say, okay? Not to allow, because we're islands, not to allow opioids, because opioids are downers. But amphetamines, because amphetamines give you a kick, so you can work for hours. Okay, I'm serious. This is what this guy told me. It's real. So I don't know if it's true or not, but it came from an official mouth, so to speak. So amphetamines are very popular because they are cheap, because you can make them at home. If you have seen the series Breaking Bad, okay, you can see this. With some degree of knowledge of chemistry, there are recipes and directions on the internet to go there and make amphetamines. And they are popular because they are cheap. They are cheap because you don't have to cross borders and to bribe people and all this. So they're very cheap. In Greece, the sisa, which is a methamphetamine, crystal methamphetamine, which needs lithium in order to be produced. And where do you get lithium? From car batteries. So they use car batteries in order to do it. The people who are using this, it costs €1, €2 out in the street. Heroin is much more expensive, cocaine even more expensive. So there is also cocaine and heroin, but I think we won't talk about this, especially fentanyl in the United States and Canada. People are dying left and right. I'm serious about this. Thousands every year, deaths from fentanyl. And this has to do with how the government, the US government, the federal government, created these pain clinics just to deal with pain, because it is an opioid, synthetic opioid, but it's even stronger than morphine. And eventually, people start getting addicted to this, and they die. But all this started with prescriptions. Okay, it's crazy. It's really crazy with fentanyl. When the police goes into a mission to seize big quantities, they wear these suits like astronauts, because even a small particle in the air, if you inhale it, you might die. It's very dangerous. What is also common with teenagers is the inhalants, things that you inhale. We call them the poor people's, the poor kids' drug, because it's shoe polish, deodorants. The most common is Zippo from lighters. So if you talk to kiosk owners, periptera in Greece, who are right in front of high schools, they tell you that the Zippo oil goes really fast. They put them in a bag, and they inhale, and they get a high. This is very dangerous because they can throw up and die because of this, or the air might go and then they don't have air to breathe, they don't have oxygen and they die. But anyways, this is cheap, this is everywhere. So this is more common with young people, okay? So enough though of all this. But this is the reality. We get scared. As I said, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. Okay, this is how our life is, right? So, I mean, you keep fighting, and you keep trying to do your best, especially when it comes to your family or when it comes to your school. Okay, so now let's go there. Let's have some tips about this. But because, as I said before, addiction is a kind of slavery. And actually, it's a symptom. It's not the cause of the problem. It's the fever. It's not the virus. The virus is all the trauma that we have, our past, or the pain that we have, and that we want to get rid. We want to anesthetize ourselves. Okay? So we have to cure the cause of this pain. It's not just stop doing drugs. This is nonsense. Nobody does that. Okay? So you need to work therapeutically with yourself and with others. Okay? But this is very difficult. So if we take a look at the numbers, we are losing the game. The game. It's not the game. You know what I mean. You forgive me. Okay? But we are losing. Few people of the people who are into addiction, okay, go and ask for treatment. And out of those people, fewer people graduate or finish or complete their treatment, and they are on recovery for many years to come. Okay? So, what is more important than treatment, and I'm a treatment guy, I come from the treatment field, right, is prevention. Okay? Now, I have 12 pointers, 12 possible signs that if you see them, there might be some problematic use of substances with your children. And what I mean by your children, I'm talking also to the teachers, your children, your students as well. Okay? Now, we have the tendency, because we want to be in control, especially we're parents, right? We need to feel in control. And this is very difficult when it comes to our children. We used to play detective. Okay? 20, 30 years ago, private investigators were making most of their money with adultery cases. When adultery was not illegal anymore, you know what most private investigators make their money from? From parents who say, okay, please follow my son to see if he's taking anything. And we want to play the detective, the private investigator, so that we'll feel better, we'll feel safe. Okay, it's not a very good idea. And the 12 points that I'm going to read to you, it's a list that we have put together in KETHEA, the organization in Greece, might be misleading, because this might be just adolescence. Okay? But if you have them all together, it rings a bell. Okay? So, if our daughter or son looks distant, melancholic, tired, doesn't care about personal grooming or hygiene, that's one sign. Again, it could be just adolescence, all right? Very common. Number two, if she or he starts becoming aggressive and does not cooperate with others, also, aggression is another sign. If he has sudden mood swings, happy and sad, alive and joyful, and then silent and in a bad mood, okay, the sudden mood swings. His or her relationship with other family members are deteriorating, are worsening, are getting worse. That's another sign. He gives up or she gives up on all friends and develops distance from them. That's another sign. Does poorly at school, skipping classes. This is definitely 90% adolescents, probably 10% drug use, okay? So, if he loses interest for favorite activities, that might be another sign. If his or her eating and sleeping habits are changing, so no appetite, there is insomnia, or he or she is always sleepy, okay, that might be another sign. Many lies and extreme secrecy, especially the many lies, is very characteristic with people who use substances. And they're the best manipulators ever. The best manipulators ever. So lying is a sign of addiction, but this goes with gambling as well, or internet, etc., with other addictions, behavioral addictions as well, not just substance addictions. Now, if objects or things or money from the house are missing. Okay, that's an indication that something might be happening. Unusual smells and stenches, stains, spots on the body, on clothes, and also in the room, his or her room. This is another sign. And the last one is if you find pills or unusual powder or aluminum foil pieces or plastic straws or cigarette papers or syringes, that's another sign. Okay, these are 12 signs that our colleagues put together. So keep this in mind. But I'm going to make a comment at the very end about this because it's also dangerous, as I said, to play the detective. Okay? But we have to be smart. Okay? We have to be creative. We have to be imaginative. For example, when one of my sons, I have 3 sons and a daughter, who was really the more, the cool dude, and I was afraid for him. He knows what I do. I mean, okay, I was the director for the biggest organization in Greece, in northern Greece, in Thessaloniki. Everybody knows me there. And he knows that I have dealings with the police and the drug squad. Because of my job, I train them, I do things. So I go to the police academy and I teach. And I didn't do it on purpose, but I let him believe that I knew everything about his moves from which was nonsense, from the people from the drug squad. But, ο φόβος φυλάει τα έρμα, we say in Greek. So, fear, how do we translate this? Fear. Protects the Thank you. Now, prevention is not just passing information. Because knowledge can help you. So they have to know the truth. But it's not enough. And to make the point, think of all these pneumatologists, lung doctors, who treat the lungs, right? Who smoke like crazy. They do know, of course, that this is bad for their health, but they do smoke. So it's not just information, it's more than that. And I have 6 points that I would like to make. The first one is communication. Sorry, are you raising your head? Oh, okay, sorry. And I saw before and I forgot. Okay. Communication, incredibly important. We have to be able to communicate with our children. And it is not easy when they're teenagers, because that's the last thing they want to do, correct? But we have to find ways. As I said, we have to be creative. We have to be imaginative. We have to keep a line of communication open. And there has to be agreement with the 2 parents, even if they're divorced, okay? And sometimes somebody has to play good cop and somebody bad cop. It's okay, it's a strategy, but we have to talk about these things, and we have to have an open line of communication with our children. Closeness, to have contact with our children. From our side, they would reject us. We know this, right? But it's good to be there, not to overpower them, not to patronize them, not to choke them with our presence and with our need for control, because we don't have the control. We don't have the control, okay? They're teenagers, but we need this closeness. Clear boundaries out of love. Okay, we need the boundaries. And the boundaries become broader and broader by the more mature they become. But we need to have boundaries. A colleague of mine, he used to be the head of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. An Italian, Gilberto Zera, an amazing man. He told me, he's older than me, so his son was older. He said, my son, he was 16, 17, every night I would tell him when he was about to leave the house, what did we say, 11 o'clock, home? And he was like, the door, right? So I said, why did you do this? This doesn't make sense. Actually it aggravates. No, he said, I know he's not going to keep it. he's going to come 12. I know that his reaction, he doesn't know this, but deep down, he feels secure. He feels safe. He doesn't realize this. It's not a conscious thing, you know? But it does happen because there are boundaries. Somebody cares. And puts the boundaries. I would not argue. I would just say, hey, 11 o'clock. Just this. Okay, it made sense. And boundaries is not because we want to be righteous and right. We put boundaries because we love them. To me, Jesus is the best example of this. In my book, love is not an emotion, is not a feeling, is not a sentiment. It's a choice. It's a way of life. That's the only way I can understand that I have to love my enemies. Because what I feel for my enemies is I want to kill them. I want to hit them. I want to destroy them, you know. I don't feel like loving them. But the command is to think the best, to want the best for them. So this is a choice, and I choose if I want to love, I choose love, and I choose to want the best, even for the people who hate me. Okay? So it's a choice. But love is without conditions. It's unconditional, but it comes with boundaries. And that's why Jesus, to me, is the incredible example. Remember what he did in the temple? People were selling in his name stuff. He went there and, can I say a bad word almost? No? We're not kidding. He kicked us. No. He kicked them out. I want to say, yeah, okay. Here is, yeah, Iris, of course, yeah. He really, yeah, that's what he did. Okay? Violence, okay, question marks. But we usually skip a very important detail. Before he did this, the gospel says that he made with his own hands a whip. Think about it. It was premeditated. It was not in the heat of the moment. He saw that, oh, he thought about it, and he made with his own hands a whip because he wanted to teach them something. And for these people, a week later or a few weeks later, he died on the cross. He did this because he loved them, because he cared for them. He put boundaries because he cares for them. So I'm using this as an example. You might not believe in God, you might not believe in Christ. It doesn't really matter. I don't want to impose anything on you, but it is a very good example. Okay? Now, the fourth thing that I have written here is calmness, not to losing our cool, composure. Oh boy. It is not easy. It is not easy. It's not. So, and you know, I know it. I'm not, you know, I'm a very calm person, but I lost my calm many times, especially with one of my kids. And it was really something. My wife was going through menopause at the same time that our son was 15. And our daughter, younger, she came to me and said, Dad, can we go and rent another place? The two of us. Well, there is a little Oedipodian there, okay? But it's okay, I mean, okay, all healthy and stuff. But, I mean, think about it, you know? We need to be calm. The next one comes with this. We need to have humor. We need to have humor. To the men, I want to remind you of the army. Because most of us have been to the army, correct? Most of us, okay. Or many of us, anyways, it doesn't matter. But in the army, if you don't have humor, if you don't have a sense of humor, you might take a gun and start shooting everybody or start with shooting yourself because everything is so crazy. It doesn't make sense. Things do not make sense most of the time. And this is designed, let's not go there, why, and okay, but you need to have a good sense of humor in order to survive. And the good sense of humor concerning adolescence starts with us remembering how we were when we were adolescents, when we were teenagers. Okay. And if our parents are alive, it's a good idea to have a family meeting. Hey, Dad, Mom, tell me, how was as a teenager? And then we will discover things. But we need to have humor. We cannot take things seriously. Otherwise, we will think that they're the worst parents, you know. And this is not true. We're not. We make mistakes, yes, hundreds a day. So what? Okay. So we need a sense of humor. And the last one, and I think this is very important, and it goes with the 12 points, the 12 signs that I mentioned before, is that we need to seek expert help. If we think that our child or a student is having trouble with substances and with addiction, that's why there are the professionals there. And I know, because 20, 25 years ago, I trained most of the people here in Cyprus. I know there are very good colleagues here. Excellent people. They know what they're doing. The same in Greece. There are people that they know what they're doing. It's not bad. Yeah, we're thinking of the stigma. Oh, what are they going to say? What is Maria going to say? What is Kostas going to say in the neighborhood or my colleague? Or, no. This is our children we're talking about. So, yes, we need to ask for help. We're not alone in this. Okay? So, that's all from me. No jokes. We're there. We have this microphone for questions or comments or... I hope you did understand with my thick accent. It was not Greek to you, literally. Yes.
We see signs that our child has an addiction or is using substances, and we seek help. Who do we seek help from? Who do we first contact? A psychologist, psychiatrist?
Oh, thank you. Very good question. Okay. People in the mental health business, the mental health realm, are usually we're talking about four kind of professionals, or three, and I will speak about the fourth later. We have psychiatrists, we have psychologists, we have social workers, trained, right? Now, not all of these are trained to deal with addiction. That's a different thing. They're addiction counselors. I'm specialized in addictions. And this is my specialty. I cannot treat bipolar disease or other things, okay? But with addiction, I'm okay. So there are people who specialize in addictions. And also, what we call internationally experts by experience. There are people who went through addiction, they went through a therapeutic program. Addiction is in their past, 20 years that they're not doing anything, and they're very good in helping others. So my recommendation is to go first to these people, and here in Cyprus, there are, I don't know how you call them, there are offices that are, no, it's not only Reto, it's one, but I'm talking even the government. It was KETHEA. No, there are, I know that there are like counseling centers that they would receive parents for this. And some of them are for free. Then another choice would be to go to a psychotherapist, a psychologist, or a social worker, or a psychiatrist.
Would it be a good idea to first speak to our doctor, our pediatrician?
No, I mean, yeah, if you want, okay, but it's not a medical matter. That's what I'm trying to say. It is not a medical matter. With our pediatrician, we have really a good rapport most of the time, and he knows our children. But he's not trained for this. Even a psychologist like me, or a psychiatrist, doesn't mean that he's good with addiction. They're specialists. So I think we go there first. And then, if there is really a problem, then you start treatment. This means that your son, your daughter, would have to go to a program like Reto or like Agia Skepi or like, you know, there are places, therapeutic communities here in Cyprus as well. And also they have program for the family, the parents, brothers and sisters, spouses. And this is very important In Greece, with KETHEA, parents would go for 2-3 years, follow a program to learn how to deal with this. Because you would have someone who would go to therapeutic program, therapeutic community, and would come back and he would be a new person, right? But he would have to face the same dude in the family. And many times, when I used to do a family therapy, like it was the father, the mother, the son, who was doing drugs, let's say, and the sister, and they would start talking among themselves, I would go home and tell my wife and say, don't say this, you know. I wanted to shout to the kid, don't stop taking drugs. Because he was the healthiest in the family. There was so much dysfunction. This is an extreme case. Sometimes there is abuse, okay, so I'm talking about the extreme case. But just to show you how important it is for the whole system, the whole family system, to get involved, to overcome all this that, you know, okay, it's a stigma, and what are they going to say? So what? We want our child not only to be alive physically, but to be free. Because the opposite of addiction, if addiction is slavery, is freedom. Okay? And we want the best for our children. We want them to be free people. Does this make sense to you? You're welcome. Yes?
Cannabis, for example, in over 27 states, I think, in Europe is legal, including Germany in 2024, which legalized it. And in other countries such as Cyprus, it's illegal.
Okay.
Won't this have an effect on, say, the teenagers in Cyprus through various things?
Yes, it
what
will.
can we do as a country to stop this, for example?
Okay. I think you came a little later, and I think you missed my remarks on cannabis, right?
No, I was here.
Oh, you were here. I'm sorry. Okay. No, because I don't want to repeat the same things again. But first of all, it's a big thing. Should we legalize cannabis? Now, depending what we mean by this. For example, our daughter has multiple sclerosis, and cannabis oil is good for her. And there are studies to show this. So we don't demonize the substance. Okay, let's keep this in mind, right? So is it for medical purposes? Is it for recreational purposes? Which I think is a very bad term, recreational purposes for this. But anyways, that's what they use. There is big money. Now that the cigarette industry went down, the cannabis industry, especially in the States, makes tons of dollars. I mean, millions of dollars. Big money involved. I think it's very naive to say that if we legalize cannabis, there will be no problem. Because the problem is the meaningless living in a society without meaning, without hope, especially with the young people. We are very hypocritical as the parents. I mean, so what do we give them? So there will be the need for people to get a high, to find an exit, a way out, always. But because we are very relaxed about cannabis use, our generation, my generation, smoked. Our father's generation didn't, but our generation smoked. Okay? So we're very easy. When I started working in the addiction field 30 years ago, a mother would come and say, Mr. Kaloterakis, my son is doing heroin. Okay, why are you saying this? Well, I opened the drawer and I found a Marlboro packet. What? And you think, no, you know, people would get scared easily and they would panic, which was wrong, but now we don't have the same reflexes because cannabis has become very acceptable. We say, okay, almost everybody does it, which is not true. But we say, okay, and we did it also, so nothing happened to us, you know. So this creates a problem with having it legalized everywhere. It's a very complex issue. What I'm certain about, should not be the central issue, the legalization of not legalization. First of all, nobody should be punished, in my opinion, for taking substances. It's a choice. Nobody. Okay? But legalizing or illegalizing, it's a false, no, it's not a false dilemma. It's like the narrative changes. And we pay attention to this and we spend a lot of energy and a lot of discussions on television and in writing about this, instead of saying why our society produces this need for young people to to want to find an escape, a way out. You see, that's a problem. That's a real problem. That's what we have to see. Does it make sense to you? I'm preaching now, so it's not. Okay, but yeah. I saw the, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. But we are, okay. You see, the voice of God. That would be it. This is it. Okay, yes, please.
My question's more about education, being a teacher, of course. But would you say that the education system, I guess in Cyprus, because it's where I find myself teaching, is it fit for purpose in terms of educating our young children regarding substances, whether it's alcohol, whatever? I grew up in the UK, and I can say that it wasn't fit for purpose when I was at school. So what's your opinion on that?
Okay, first of all, I want to confess my ignorance about the Cypriot educational system. I mean, I've been here several times, and I see what the American Academy is doing, and I'm really happy that something is happening. But this is not the whole of Cyprus, so I cannot, I cannot judge from this. So I don't want to make an assumption. I can talk about the Greek system.
Okay, yeah, Greece. Actually,
no,
I was going to mention Greece.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same, because this is also influenced by the British system, as I understand it. And the Greek system is not. The Greek system, and here we have people with a lot of experience, is completely wrong in that direction. The Greek system is more about learning, about knowledge, that also comes most of the time with memorizing, and the emphasis is on this. The emphasis is not of being a good citizen, of being a good person, of being part of the group. So this is left to the family. The educational system does not give you this. And in fact, all the prevention programs that people apply globally, they don't talk about drugs or abuse. They talk about, listen, when you see people who are lonely, help them, your fellow students. Don't bully them. You know, learn to like yourself and to be able to, stand up on your own feet. Or, they encourage self-respect. Then you don't have the need for a crutch, for crutches. Okay? I don't know if this answers your question, but
It does, yes, thank you.
I'm guessing that you can probably give an answer better than mine for Cyprus. No, I mean it. So okay.
We actually had representatives from Moreto visit our school this week and speak to our higher secondary students. They were ex-addicts.
Yes.
And spoke to our students
Experts by experience.
during their religious studies lesson.
Yeah, very good. Excellent.
Basically, my question is with regards to prevention. Do you think that people who are involved in sports are less likely to be involved with drugs? Because in the past, parents used to say, hey, my daughter is going to play basketball, my son's going to play football, and that's less. And actually, I do ask my students, as a conversation, do you drink alcohol, do you smoke? And they say, Miss, I'm an athlete. There's no chance I would do that. So do you think that actually getting children into sports would actually reduce the possibility of...
All right. That is one of the reasons that I'm glad that I'm Iraklis. I support my team. Because it's not very antagonistic. It's a losing team. Because, sports are a great alternative. Arts, also another great alternative. But even with sports, if you're antagonistic, and if your goal is always winning, that's why we have doping, which is, right? So there is a lot of pressure. Pressure with teenagers does not work. If it is for grades, if it is to be the best football players or the best violin players or the best, it creates the opposite. So, yes, it's a great alternative, but within a very specific framework, not always. Okay? Because I have seen hundreds, thousands of people, because I worked for more than 40 years, and many of them were athletes. And they came to the programs, for treatment. So it doesn't keep you safe. It helps, but it's how it is done. So that's why if I had to choose a team for my son or my daughter, for example, my younger kids were playing ice hockey in Greece, which is like a joke. There is no ice rink. But they were playing ice hockey. They were going to Bulgaria. Our son was very good. They went to Finland, you know. But they had to support this, a very unpopular sport in Greece. And that helped them. That brought them a team spirit. It was not about winning, because how many? There were 5 teams altogether in the whole country. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, just to give you an example. 2 more questions. One, and the last one, we close. We started with you, so you're closing. Yes, please.
You talked about prevention and the importance of prevention.
Yeah.
You gave those lovely 12 tips in terms of what to look out for. What I would love to learn is, how do we actually commence a conversation with our children on prevention?
Okay.
What do we tell our children? What do we not tell our children? And at what age do you think it's appropriate to start?
We don't talk with our children about prevention. That's our strategy. That's not for them. Do you understand? We don't talk to our children very specifically and in details about substances. This is not. They know a lot of stuff, more than we do. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know, when you go to your son and say, okay, son, this is the time to talk about sex. And he says, what do you want to know? Okay, so, all right. So, but we talk about loneliness. We talk about going against the current. We talk about decency, dignity, but not in this way. You know, there are smart ways to do it. And we're not all good for this. That's why there are, in Greece, there are scholes γονέων. The prevention centers have schools for parents, where you're taught this, you get training, and you apply the training. And I think there are some schools like this in Cyprus. I think so, right? I think there are, yeah. So, did I answer your question?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Kind of. I mean, on number 2 on the lovely bulletin that was sent out, it said, you know, how to start open and honest conversations. So that's what I was just curious to hear. But I think you've answered that.
Okay. We have many excuses to open conversations. Many excuses. The thing is that we cannot be charismatic, didactic. We don't have. We have to come from down there. Now, they don't need a friend in us. Okay, no, we say, okay, let's be friendly. No, they need parents. They have friends. But here, when we're talking about teenagers, as parents, we have to humble ourselves to go down and talk on that level with them. And there are many, we have many excuses to discuss. So I cannot give you recipes. Buy my book.
That was the best answer.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So actually, it's not a question. It's more like a comment. And when I think about the question of addiction, I always think about, probably you know Dr. Gabor Mate. Yes, he's an expert in the field. He's he's Hungarian, but anyway, he lived in Canada. So what he says, and his question is that the question is not why the addiction, but why the pain. And I think it's very important because, as you mentioned, and also when we talk about prevention, I think we have to go back to that why our children have or experience pain. And first we have to look at that. And I think once we find answers or we create a better environment for them at home and in the school, and I think that's why we have a huge responsibility as a school community, because if they have fun, if they have friends, if they have events, if they have understanding teachers and parents, I think they will meet drugs, they will see drugs, they might try drugs, but they will not become addicts. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I would like to end up with recommending 2 books, other than mine. No, 2 books. Now that you brought it up, thank you. The one is by Robert Skinner and John Cleese, there is in English. In English is families and how to survive them. In Greek is η Οδύσσεια της οικογένειας. Η Οδύσσεια της οικογένειας. It sounds, yeah. Families and how to survive. Robert Skinner he's dead now. An incredible psychotherapist, the father of the systemic approach to psychotherapy, that everybody was part of a system, a family system. John Cleese, I'm crazy for Monty Python. Do you know Monty Python? The British group, okay. John Cleese is one of them. He played in the James Bond movies, was Mr. Q. You know. So he's the tall one, very funny comedian. He was a client of Robert Skinner. So they did therapy together. When they finished, they decided to do a book. And it's a discussion, a conversation between a former client and a former therapist. It's extremely funny, so you read it easily, but it's so deep and so profound about family systems, about nurturing adolescents. It's really an incredible book, okay? The second one is by Scott Peck. Okay, Scott Peck, an American psychiatrist, he's also dead. Mine, I'm still alive, okay? Scott Peck, one of the most famous books, I think, it's a bestseller, it's The Road Less Traveled, right? Ο δρόμος ο λιγότερο ταξιδεμένος, εκδόσεις Κέδρος. But I'm not talking about this one. This one is an amazing book about self-knowledge, about love as a choice. But I'm talking about the second. There is a second book, Ο δρόμος ο λιγότερο ταξιδεμένος συνεχίζεται. The Road Less Traveled continues in English. And there are lectures that he gave about addiction to alcohol. So it's a very alive text because it's spoken word, it's not, you know, so easy to read. The first one, The Road Less Traveled, is a difficult book, okay? But the second one, and it's about addiction. It's about how the cares of addiction can become a blessing. So it's beautiful. So these two books, Ο δρόμος ο λιγότερο ταξιδεμένος συνεχίζεται, The Road Less Traveled continues, and Families and How to Survive Them, η Οδύσσεια της οικογένειας by John Cleese, Robert Skinner, Scott Peck. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
I would like to thank Phaedon for taking the time to be with us. The poor guy, because he travels around the world, right? So Aris called him up about 2 weeks ago. He says, hey, hi, Phaedon, where are you? He says, oh, yeah, I'm just getting out of the water. I'm in Barbados. So for training, yes. He went for training in Barbados, yes. So, yeah, he goes around, but he also goes to some places. One time I called him, he says, I'm about to board a plane to go to Tajikistan. I said, I don't even, what is that? Okay, so yeah, he's a, Tzatziki, yeah, that's what I said. But anyway, thank you very much for coming. And thank you for all of you for coming. I hope it was something that added to your big help, it's like, it's been a help for you because you got a big fight. I know I had 5 kids. They're all out of adolescent, but it was a war. So continuing this series that we have, next time, which will be on the 25th of February, it will be emotional intelligence and resilience in children, mental health awareness. And this is going to be given by Ms. Agnes Mariakaki, psychologist and social researcher with a master's from University of Lancaster, certified PTSD therapist, international NLP trainer, and best-selling author. Now, I've heard her. I'm telling you, she is a very knowledgeable, but also a very exciting person to hear. She's amazing. And I urge you to come again, and I urge you to tell other parents that weren't here today to come. What we are trying to do is we are trying to have these seminars to see if we are able to help, because we are all in this together. That's why there's teachers here, and that's why there's parents here, because we are all in it together. And the more information we get, and the more knowledge we obtain, the better it's going to be for our children. It's not just your children, it's our children as well. Thank you very much, and good night.